So I was just scrolling on YouTube and I found this video. They're doing this again. Last year it was Trae Young and now it's Ja Morant. Because apparently every young player that has a great playoff game is now compared to Steph Curry. Even though Steph Curry is not a playoff performer. Let's see what they're saying this time. Or I should say, let's see what he's saying this time. Because it's always Kendrick Perkins.
Who would you rather have, Ja or Curry, the rest of the way, Perk?
You know what? I'm going with Ja Morant because the Memphis Grizzlies don't move unless Ja Morant.
Stephen A is already on the same page.
Because the Memphis Grizzlies don't move unless Ja Morant be the best version of himself. Steph Curry could struggle and the Golden State Warriors still could win the game because of the weapons and emergence of Jordan Poole. But when you talk about Ja Morant, you talk about a guy that's unguardable. We're talking about a point guard that led the league in paint points this season. It's no
Wow. Okay. Oh man. So usually with takes like this, there's usually some shred of evidence that they like grab onto to try to base their entire argument around. He just said like 3 or 4 things that just straight up are not true. So first off, he said that the Memphis Grizzlies do not move unless Ja Morant is playing at his best. Okay, so here's Ja Morant's on-off numbers. The Grizzlies actually lose 7 wins with him on the floor as opposed to off the court. And if we look at other statistics such as net rating, and if cleaning the glass isn't, a source that you want, here's NBA.com and their on-off numbers and statistics in terms of like net rating, offensive rating, all that stuff. If we go down to Ja Morant, the Grizzlies were 115.3 offensive rating with him on the floor, on court. With him off the floor, they were 111.7, which makes sense. They decreased by about 3.5 points, give or take, on offense, which makes sense. However, net rating is a combination of both offensive rating and defensive rating, and the Grizzlies were a much better team defensively with him off the floor. The Grizzlies' defensive rating with him on the floor was 111.2, which there's a handful of statistics that factor into defensive rating, but the main one would be points per 100 possessions for the opposing team. And with him off the floor, the Grizzlies had a defensive rating of 105.3, meaning that their net rating with Ja Morant on the court, which is their difference between offense and defense, and is generally a good indication of how well a team is actually performing. Their net rating with him on the floor was 4.1, and with him off the floor, it was 6.4. They literally got better when he was off the floor. How does that even make sense? And if we look at Stephen Curry's numbers, 114 offensive rating, 103.4 defensive rating. Golden State's net rating was a 10.7 with him on the floor, and it was a negative 1.4 with him off. They got vastly worse with him off the floor, which makes sense because that's what we're seeing in the games. The second part, which makes absolutely no sense at all, saying that Ja Morant is an unstoppable point guard just because he can get to the paint. Now, I don't know if Kendrick Perkins is following the playoffs at all, because if he was, then he would know that Ja Morant in the first round against the Minnesota Timberwolves shot 38%. So here, let's just go to his playoff log. This is every game of the Minnesota series. He shot 38.6%, 20% from 3, and 71% at the free throw line. He had good numbers, but it was on abysmal efficiency. And if he was watching that series at all, then he'll know that a lot of the reasons that his shooting numbers and shooting splits looked like that was because he was struggling to get past the 3-point line and get into the paint. Nothing that he just said makes any sense.
No disrespect to Draymond Green or Gary Payton II. I love both of those guys and what they bring to the table, but they ain't stopping Ja Morant. You cannot stop him from getting to his spots. You can't stop him.
Okay, so we're only 43 seconds in, and he hasn't been right about a single thing so far. That is absolutely insane. Let me go and actually find the matchup data, because Ja Morant cannot do anything against Gary Payton II. So these are all of the the matchups that Ja Morant faced during the regular season. So Gary Payton is at the top right here. So if we look over here, Ja Morant was 2 for 12 in the regular season when guarded by Gary Payton II. So then let's go down here. And Draymond Green's numbers, all right, he has a case here because he was 4 for 5 when guarded by Draymond Green throughout the season, or Draymond Green as the primary defender. But if we go all the way back up here, I can't search for players for some reason. It doesn't work. So if we go back up here, Andrew Wiggins matchup minutes, then Ja Morant shoots 5 for 17 against Andrew Wiggins. I mean, you still have to worry about the Draymond Green matchup, obviously, but you also have to worry about the Andrew Wiggins matchup.
He knows how to make the right plays. He knows how to make guys around him better. He's going to fill up the stat sheet. He's relentless for us going to the glass. And so the Memphis Grizzlies.
People always bring up, oh, but does he make guys better? What does that even mean? Because if I asked you, oh, so-and-so makes his teammates better, what does that mean to you? Because for a lot of people, they don't actually have a definition. They just think, oh, I pass you the ball and you make the shot, so that means I made you better. So if you miss the shot, does that mean I made you worse? Like, what exactly qualifies as making your teammates better? That's just one thing that I would want to clarify, you know.
And so the Memphis Grizzlies don't move or can't win unless Ja Morant is the best version of himself.
The Grizzlies can't move and can't win unless Ja Morant is the best version of himself. That is word for word what he said. The Memphis Grizzlies went 20-5 with him, or in games that he did not play in the season. 20-5. And these aren't like just squeaking by these wins either. Look at one by 27, one by 73, one by 35, one by 19, one by 15, one by 12, one by 33, 24, 30, 25, 28. There's no way. And really, the only reason that they were losing all of these games towards the end of the season is because they were resting everybody. Like, Dylan Brooks wasn't playing in these games. Desmond Bane wasn't playing. Like, that was the reason that they were losing these games. Not because of Ja Morant being out, but because of the entire starting lineup being out.
His perimeter game ain't that strong. Everything else about him is spectacular, but his perimeter game isn't that strong, and he comes out and hits 2 threes to start off the damn game, for crying out loud. Now, he went the rest of the game shooting 2 of 11 from three-point range, but that doesn't negate the fact that this dude is unstoppable. He's a young superstar in this league, and he's only going to get better and better.
Again, I would not say unstoppable. I would say that he is far from unstoppable, because even though he did score 34 points and had this stat line, it took him 31 shots to do it. He shot 14 for 31. And while that's not a terrible percentage, it still took him 31 shots to get 34 points.
You know why, Kendrick Perkins? Because on a day like today, the Golden State Warriors won Game 1, which means they now for the moment have home court advantage. And who sparks that crowd in Golden State better than Steph Curry? Who galvanizes everybody better than Steph Curry, particularly on their home court in San Francisco? In the end, I look at Steph Curry and what he brings to the table, and even though I'm loving what I'm seeing from Jordan Poole, even though I expect Klay Thompson to make amends for his performance yesterday, even though he had a big-time 3 with about 36 seconds left, but missed those 2 free throws, this engine is stirred by Steph Curry, particularly and specifically on their home court. And now that goes.
And another thing about what happened in Game 1, because this can be its entire separate video in itself, and I was planning on making an entire separate video talking about the officiating in that game because it deserves its own video, but this is going to go up the day of Game 2. By the time I'm talking about the officiating of Game 1, it's going to be old news, so it's not going to be, it's not going to have its own video, so I'll probably just talk about it here. There was a tweet from somebody who people found out works for the NBA. Like, this is not a conspiracy. He works for the NBA. People found this out. He was saying that he works in the replay center, and there were 2 separate occasions when the replay center decided a call after a replay review, and the officiating crew on the court just straight up did not accept the ruling and went against it. These two calls were the flagrant foul and ejection on Draymond Green. The replay review, or the replay center, called that a flagrant 1. They stuck with their flagrant 2 call. And then the second call was the call that would have fouled Dillon Brooks out of the game. It was the charging foul on Stephen Curry in the 4th quarter that made him pick up his 5th foul. The replay center ruled this a blocking foul because Golden State actually challenged the call. Golden State lost the challenge, even though the replay center called it a block, because the officials on the court went against the ruling. Now, I know what you're saying. You might be saying, oh, well, it could be anybody. He has now deleted these tweets. He's gone on private, and he has made several threads. Well, before he went on private, I looked at his account, and he was making several threads about how he was terrified because he didn't know what was going to happen to his job. I mean, like, I don't know how, because I understand you may still be skeptical about some of that, but I feel like how the officiating in that game went, with everybody being like, I've never seen the NBA community like agree on anything, right? I'm part of the NBA community. I talk about basketball every single day on Twitter and whatnot. Nobody agrees on anything. So let's get that out of the way right now. The fact that many people were agreeing that the officiating was extremely weird, that should give that story that story a chance. And another thing about that too, which kind of leans me into believing that is actually real, is because he is proven that he works for the NBA or with the NBA or whatnot. So my thing is, if he was lying about something like that, why would he do that to himself? It would make zero sense for him to lie about something like that when he's actually involved in the NBA. So that kind of gives it a little bit more legitimacy in my eyes. But, of course, you can have your own opinion about that.
But when I look at Steph and Ja, I got to take Ja just because Memphis Grizzlies can't win this series or a game without Ja being the best version of himself.
I think that you're a prisoner of the moment, sir. As spectacular as Jordan Poole was in games 1 through 3, games 4 and 5 against Denver, not so much. And last time I checked, Steph Curry was the dude that showed up in that particular game. Not to say that Jordan Poole did not, but the point is, Steph.
Why does Kendrick Perkins always roll his eyes when he's presented with facts that disprove whatever he just said? Look at him roll his eyes.
And let's not also forget, this kid, Jaren Jackson Jr., I mean, that was another reason Memphis was in this game.
Jaren Jackson is the only reason that this game was even close. He had 33 points and hit 6 threes. He's never going to do that again, at least not in this series. Like, the shots that he was just making every single 3 that he took. Like, that's not something that I expect him to replicate.
And games 3, 4, and a potential game 6 are going to be in San Francisco. I'm of the mindset that those will be big games where Steph Curry is going to show out. That's all. That's all.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
right.
fine. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying I'm taking Ja.
And I'm saying I'm taking Steph.
People always say, oh, why do you even give dudes like Kendrick Perkins the time of day? I give these dudes the time of day because they are given a platform on something like ESPN where people will see this and repeat these things. And I have, like, I can't even tell you how many times that I have been arguing with somebody over something and they bring out a talking point from something that they saw on First Take or something along those lines. Like, these are things that people actually will sometimes listen to. So that's why I think that it's important to know what's being said, but also not look too much into it, because obviously I don't watch shows like this for my basketball takes or basketball knowledge analysis, things like that. Why are we doing this again? It happened with Trey last season. The season before that, it was Damian Lillard. The season before that, or a couple years before that, it was Kyrie. Kyrie's better than Steph, although that had a lot more traction because of the 3-1. It's just people that don't even deserve to be in the conversation that are being put into these conversations, but are also not being held to the same standards that they're holding Steph to. Because last season, when you were hearing all these Dame and Steph comparisons, Dame had a handful of awful games at the start of the season. You didn't hear about those, did you? That's what I mean by that. My issue is just putting people in conversations and then just setting them up for failure when they don't reach these expectations, like Ja Morant being being better than Steph Curry, or who would you? I would rather take Ja Morant. That's just my thoughts. I don't like the fact that we have to keep doing this every single season, but with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the bell to be notified when I upload. Comment down below what you want to see next. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one.